There is a valley in southern China where the air smells like wet stone and ancient pine. The locals call it the place where you can see immortals. There are monasteries in Greece built on rock pillars so tall that monks hauled every brick up by rope and prayer. There is a volcano in Ethiopia where the ground glows orange beneath your feet and the earth itself is tearing apart. These are not postcards. These are not screensavers. These are real places that exist right now on this planet, and most people will live their entire lives without knowing a single one of them. What you are about to see is a journey across 20 of the most hidden, most extreme, and most visually impossible locations on Earth. Each one documented, each one real, each one waiting. Deep in the mountains of southern China, a valley hides behind walls of limestone that rise over 1,000 feet on every side. The name Wangxian means the place where you see immortals. That name is not poetic decoration. It is a description that has survived over 1,500 years, because the people who walked into this valley genuinely believed they had crossed into another world. The valley stretches across miles of old-growth forest. Waterfalls drop from ledges hundreds of feet above the valley floor. Streams cut through rock so ancient that the stone itself has turned the color of jade. The air is heavy with moisture and the sharp, clean scent of pine resin. Sound behaves differently here. Your own voice disappears into the canopy before it reaches the far wall. Taoist monks once chose this valley as their retreat from civilization. They built small shelters along the cliffs and spent decades writing poetry and practicing meditation in complete isolation. Some of these shelters still exist, carved into rock faces that no modern safety inspector would approve. The trails that connect them are narrow stone paths with no railings, winding along cliff edges where a single misstep drops you into forest so dense that search teams would need days to reach you. Today, visitors hike these same trails. They swim beneath waterfalls that pour water cold enough to stop your breathing for a full second. They drink tea in silence at stone tables that monks placed centuries ago. But the valley has no cell service. No emergency helicopter can land inside its walls. If something goes wrong here, you are alone with the mountain and whatever skills you brought with you. For a place named after immortals, Wangxian Valley has a very real way of reminding you that you are not one. If that level of isolation sounds intense, the next place was built to cross a gap that nature never intended humans to bridge. 6 curved stone arches hold a railway 213 feet above a river valley in the Swiss Alps. The Landwasser Viaduct stretches 446 feet across open air and then drives directly into a tunnel bored through solid mountain rock. No steel reinforcement, no modern composite materials, just limestone blocks stacked with precision by engineers who finished the job in 1902. Standing below it, you hear the structure before you see the train. A low vibration moves through the stone. Then a red passenger car appears from behind a mountain curve, crosses the open bridge in seconds, and vanishes into the cliff face like it was swallowed. The valley below is a carpet of dark green spruce trees, split by a river that looks thin as thread from the bridge deck. The construction itself cost 5 workers their lives. Scaffolding at that height in alpine wind was not a controlled environment. Materials were hauled up cliff faces using pulley systems that would violate every modern safety code. The engineers knew the risks. They also knew that connecting the villages on either side of this valley required crossing it, and crossing it required building something that had never been attempted at this scale in stone. In winter, ice coats the arches. Snow buries the approach tracks. Temperatures drop well below zero. The train still runs. It has run through 2 world wars, countless avalanche seasons, and over a century of freeze-thaw cycles that crack lesser structures to dust. Riders press their faces to the glass as the valley opens beneath them. Their stomachs drop. The crossing takes less than 30 seconds, but the memory lasts considerably longer. A 124-year-old stone bridge with no steel, carrying passengers across a void every single day. And it is nowhere near the most extreme thing on this list. If you have ever looked at a place and thought nothing could survive there, the next entry exists to prove you wrong. Surface temperatures in the Danakil Depression reach 134 degrees Fahrenheit. The ground sits 410 feet below sea level. The air contains sulfur dioxide, chlorine gas, and concentrations of hydrogen sulfide strong enough to corrode metal equipment within hours. This is not a place that tolerates human presence. It is a place that actively attacks it. The Danakil sits at the junction of 3 tectonic plates that are slowly pulling apart. The Earth's crust here is thinner than almost anywhere else on the planet. Lava pushes close to the surface. Hydrothermal vents shoot superheated brine into pools that glow neon yellow and toxic green. The colors are beautiful in photographs. In person, they come with a smell that burns the inside of your nose. The Afar people have lived in this region for centuries. They mine salt from the flats by hand, cutting blocks in temperatures that would send most humans to a hospital within an hour. A single day of work earns them roughly $5. They load the salt onto camels and walk it out across a landscape where shade does not exist. There is no alternative economy here. There is no second option. Scientists travel to the Danakil to study extremophile organisms, tiny life forms that survive in acid pools and boiling springs. NASA has used this place as an analog for conditions on other planets. The logic is straightforward. If life can exist here, it might exist on worlds we have not reached yet. Visitors who attempt the trek face mandatory armed escorts, strict hydration protocols, and the constant possibility of volcanic gas exposure. Several tourists have died here. The Earth does not care about your itinerary. A place where the planet is literally splitting open deserves a moment. If the Danakil moved you, consider leaving a like on this video. It tells us that going deeper into the places most channels avoid is exactly what you came here for. Beneath the limestone mountains of central Vietnam, a cave system stretches for miles in total darkness. Son Doong, the largest chamber inside Phong Nha-Ke Bang, runs 5.5 miles long, reaches 660 feet tall, and is wide enough to fit a Boeing 747 inside without touching the walls. UNESCO recognized this national park as a World Heritage Site in 2003, but the cave itself was not fully explored until 2009. The entrance is a vertical drop into jungle. Sunlight punches through 2 collapsed ceiling sections called dolines, creating shafts of light that hit the cave floor and feed entire forests growing underground. Trees, ferns, and moss thrive in these pockets. Clouds form inside the cave. Actual weather happens beneath the surface of the earth. Local farmer Ho Kan discovered the cave entrance in 1991, but could not relocate it for nearly 2 decades. The jungle swallowed his path. When British cavers finally mapped it, they found underground rivers running fast enough to make crossing dangerous, stalagmites over 200 feet tall, and fossil passages that had not seen light in millions of years. Only 1,000 permits are issued per year to enter Sondun. The trek takes 4 days. Visitors cross rivers in darkness, climb calcite walls with ropes, and sleep in camps set up inside chambers so large that headlamp beams cannot reach the ceiling. One wrong step near the river passages means cold water moving fast over slick rock with no easy way out. The Vietnamese government limits access specifically because the cave's ecosystem is fragile enough that too many human footprints could destroy formations that took 3 million years to build. Imagine standing in a cave so large it grows its own jungle. Now imagine what it takes to carve an entire mountain range into a tourist attraction. That is exactly what happened next. The stone pillars of Zhangjiajie rise over 1,300 feet straight up from the valley floor. There are more than 3,000 of them. They stand in clusters like the ruins of a city built by something much larger than humans. The formations are so unusual that the filmmakers behind Avatar used them as direct visual reference for the floating mountains. Tianmen Mountain sits nearby with a cable car that runs 4.7 miles long and takes nearly 30 minutes to complete. The ride climbs steeply through fog and cloud cover. At certain points, the car hangs over drops exceeding 4,000 feet with nothing visible below. The glass-bottom walkway bolted to the cliff face extends 330 feet along the mountain's edge at an elevation of 4,700 feet. The glass panels are just over 2 inches thick. Below them, open air and a straight fall to forest canopy. Heaven's Gate is a natural hole eroded through the mountain itself. It measures 430 feet tall. The road that leads up to it has 99 hairpin turns, stacked so tightly that buses must reverse multiple times at certain bends. In 2011, a wingsuit pilot flew through Heaven's Gate at over 100 miles per hour. The margin for error was measured in feet, not yards. Workers who maintain the glass walkway do so by rappelling down the cliff face. They inspect every bolt and panel while hanging from ropes over a vertical drop that would give them roughly 15 seconds of freefall before impact. These maintenance checks happen multiple times per year. The walkway holds thousands of tourists daily. Standing on that glass, you feel your legs disagree with your brain. Your eyes see the ground thousands of feet below. Your feet feel solid glass. Your body trusts neither. If you have ever tested your nerve on a high place, drop a comment and tell us the highest you have been. We genuinely want to know where your limit sits. Erta Ale has maintained a continuously active lava lake for over 100 years. That makes it one of only 5 persistent lava lakes on Earth. The crater sits in the northern Danakil region at an elevation of just 2,011 feet, making it one of the lowest profile active volcanoes in the world. Low profile does not mean low danger. It means the lava is closer to you than almost anywhere else. The hike to the crater rim takes roughly 4 hours. Across basalt desert, in temperatures that hover around 120 degrees Fahrenheit, even after sunset. There is no trail. Guides navigate by memory and stars. The ground is sharp volcanic rock, that shreds boot soles within a few trips. Camels carry water and supplies, because no vehicle can cross the final stretch. In 2012, an armed group attacked a tourist camp near the volcano, killing 5 visitors and kidnapping others. Security has increased since then, but the region remains classified as high risk by most foreign governments. Armed Afar guards accompany every expedition. They are not optional. At the crater rim, the glow hits you before the heat does. The lava lake churns roughly 300 feet below the lip. Chunks of black crust crack apart and reveal molten orange beneath. The sound is a low, continuous roar mixed with sharp cracking, like a furnace the size of a football field. Gas vents release sulfur plumes that drift unpredictably. Visitors sleep on the crater rim with no shelter, watching the glow paint the sky a color that has no accurate name. The Afar people call Erta Ale the gateway to hell. They do not mean it as metaphor. Molten rock glowing beneath your feet at night is extreme. But the next volcano adds something even stranger to the equation: fire that burns blue. At 9,100 feet on the island of Java, a volcano holds a lake of pure sulfuric acid, measuring over 600 feet wide. The pH level of the water hovers around 0.5. For comparison, battery acid sits at approximately 1.0. This lake is more corrosive than the acid inside the battery that starts your car. But the acid lake is not what draws people to Kawah Ijen at 2 in the morning. The blue fire is. Sulfuric gases escape through cracks in the crater floor at temperatures exceeding 1,100 degrees Fahrenheit. When they hit the air, they ignite into flames that burn electric blue against the darkness. The effect looks manufactured. It is not. It is raw chemistry happening in real time, on a scale visible from miles away. Sulfur miners have worked this crater for generations. They carry loads of up to 180 pounds of solidified sulfur in woven baskets balanced on their shoulders. They climb down into the crater and back out twice a day on paths with no safety equipment. The sulfur fumes damage their lungs, eyes, and teeth. Average life expectancy for miners here falls well below the national average. They earn roughly $13 per day. Tourists hike the same path at night to see the blue flames. The trail is steep, unlit, and covered in loose volcanic gravel. Gas masks are recommended, but not always available. When the wind shifts, a wall of sulfur gas can engulf the trail with zero warning. Visibility drops to inches. Breathing becomes a conscious effort. Miners walk through that gas without masks every single day because the alternative is no income at all. Those miners carry 180 pounds of sulfur through toxic gas for $13 a day. That reality is not entertainment. It is someone's Tuesday. If sharing this video puts that fact in front of one more person, that matters. Consider sending it to someone who should see it. 6 monasteries still stand on top of sandstone pillars that rise between 1,000 and 1,800 feet above the plains of central Greece. They have been there since the 14th century. The monks who built them had no cranes. They had no roads leading upward. They had rope, wood, wind, and faith. The first monks climbed the pillars using wooden pegs hammered into rock cracks. Materials were hauled up in nets pulled by hand-cranked winches. A single supply load could take hours to lift. Workers who lost their grip fell onto stone. Construction continued for decades under these conditions because the monks were not building for convenience. They were building to be unreachable during a period when wars and raids made ground-level existence genuinely dangerous. The rock formations themselves were shaped by 60 million years of erosion. River water, wind, and earthquakes carved the original plateau into the isolated columns that exist today. The stone is conglomerate, a mixture of sandstone and rounded pebbles cemented together by natural mineral deposits. It looks solid from a distance. Up close, you can see the individual stones embedded in the matrix, and you understand that time is still working on these pillars. Today, stairs and small bridges connect the monasteries to paved roads. But the original net system survived into the 1920s. Monks and visitors were hauled up in rope nets, dangling over hundreds of feet of open air. When asked how often the ropes were replaced, one monk reportedly answered, "Only when the Lord lets them break." Standing on a monastery terrace, the valley spreads flat and green in every direction. The wind is constant. The silence between gusts is total. A place built to be unreachable is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site with paved access. But the next entry took 90 years to carve and was never meant to be reached easily either. The largest stone Buddha statue in the world stands 233 feet tall, carved directly into a red sandstone cliff in Sichuan province. Its shoulders span 92 feet. Each ear measures 23 feet long. The statue overlooks the confluence of 3 rivers, the Min, Dadu, and Qingyi, where currents collide with enough force to capsize boats that stray from the channel. A Chinese monk named Haitong began the project in 713 AD. He believed a massive Buddha watching over the rivers would calm the dangerous waters and protect the sailors who died there regularly. He spent 20 years fundraising. When a local government official demanded a bribe, Haitong reportedly gouged out his own eyes and presented them on a plate. The official fled. Construction continued. The carving took 90 years to complete, spanning 3 generations of workers. They cut directly into the cliff face using hand tools. Scaffolding was bamboo lashed to rock with rope. The stone dust alone would have caused respiratory damage over months of continuous work. No record survives of how many workers died during the project. The drainage system hidden inside the statue, channels carved behind the ears and along the robe to redirect rainwater, was so well engineered that it still functions after 1,300 years. Visitors today walk down a narrow staircase carved alongside the Buddha's body. The steps are steep, worn smooth by millions of feet, and have no railing in several sections. Looking up from the base, the statue fills your entire field of vision. Looking down at the river from the top, you understand exactly why Haitong thought the waters needed watching. 13 centuries of weather, earthquakes, and river floods. The Buddha is still sitting there. If a statue can survive 1,300 years, imagine what isolation can do to an entire island's evolution. The next place has been cut off from the mainland for so long that a third of its plant life exists nowhere else on Earth. Socotra sits 240 miles off the coast of Yemen in the Arabian Sea. It has been geologically separated from the African mainland for at least 6 million years. That isolation produced an ecosystem so unusual that 37% of its plant species are found nowhere else on the planet. UNESCO designated it a World Heritage Site in 2008, calling it one of the most biodiversity-rich islands in the world. The dragon blood trees are the visual signature. Their canopies spread into dense umbrella shapes that look designed by something other than natural selection. When the bark is cut, the tree bleeds a deep crimson resin that ancient civilizations used as medicine, dye, and ritual material. The trees can live for hundreds of years, but climate change is shrinking their range. Younger trees are not replacing older ones fast enough. The landscape shifts between white sand beaches, limestone plateaus carved into sharp ridges, and mountain peaks that trap monsoon moisture in thick cloud forests. The wind during monsoon season reaches speeds that ground all small aircraft and make sea crossings dangerous for weeks at a time. Residents of Socotra have historically been completely cut off from outside contact for months during storm season. Roughly 60,000 people live on the island. Most survive through fishing, livestock herding, and date farming. Medical facilities are limited. The ongoing conflict in Yemen has made supply deliveries unpredictable. When a serious injury or illness occurs, evacuation depends entirely on weather and available transport. Sometimes neither cooperates. Walking through the dragon blood forest feels like walking through a landscape that belongs to a different geological era. Because it does. A place that evolution forgot for 6 million years is extraordinary. But the next location proves you do not need millions of years to create something no one has ever seen before. Most channels never mention Socotra. Its remoteness and the complexity of Yemen's situation make it easy to skip. The fact that you are still watching tells us you want depth over convenience. Subscribing means you will not miss the next time we go where others do not. Every winter, thousands of white methane bubbles freeze in stacked layers beneath the clear ice surface of Abraham Lake in Alberta, Canada. The lake was not formed by nature. It was created in 1972 when a dam was built on the North Saskatchewan River for hydroelectric power and flood control. The reservoir filled a valley in the Canadian Rockies, and the result looked so naturally beautiful that most visitors assume it has been there for centuries. The bubbles form when dead organic material on the lake bed decomposes and releases methane gas. As the gas rises through increasingly cold water, it freezes at different depths. The result is columns of white disks stacked vertically inside perfectly transparent ice. Photographers travel from around the world to capture the effect, often lying flat on the frozen surface with their faces inches from the ice. That ice is not always as solid as it looks. Abraham Lake freezes unevenly due to wind patterns and fluctuating water levels from the dam. Pressure cracks can open without warning. In several documented incidents, visitors have fallen through sections that appeared solid minutes earlier. Water temperature beneath the ice hovers near 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Survival time after immersion is measured in minutes, not hours. The methane itself is flammable. Researchers have demonstrated this by drilling through the ice and lighting the escaping gas. A column of fire rises directly from the frozen surface. It is dramatic, scientifically useful, and a reminder that the beauty on display is powered by decomposition and combustible chemistry. The Rocky Mountain backdrop frames every photograph: snow-covered peaks, frozen shoreline, and bubbles trapped in ice that could crack beneath your weight. Standing on frozen methane over cold water surrounded by mountains is one kind of awe. The next entry delivers a completely different kind. A waterfall so tall that the water evaporates before it reaches the bottom. Angel Falls drops 3,212 feet from the summit of Ollantaytambo, a flat-topped mountain in southeastern Venezuela. That makes it the tallest waterfall in the world. The drop is so extreme that during dry season, much of the water turns to mist before it reaches the base. You hear the falls before you see them. A roar fills the jungle canopy, and then the white column appears through a gap in the trees, seemingly hanging from the clouds. American pilot Jimmy Angel crash-landed his plane on top of Ollantaytambo in 1937 while searching for gold. He and his companions spent 11 days hiking down through jungle so thick they could see only a few feet ahead. The plane remained on the summit for over 30 years before being removed by helicopter. The waterfall was named after him, though the indigenous Pemon people had called it Kerepakupai Meru, meaning waterfall of the deepest place, for generations before any outsider arrived. Reaching the falls today requires a flight to Canaima, a riverboat ride upstream, and then a jungle hike. There are no roads. The river route includes rapids that require experienced pilots. During rainy season, the river rises fast enough to strand visitors at base camp for days. Flash floods on tributary streams have caught hikers off guard, with no time to reach high ground. The Tepui itself is a geological relic. Its summit has been isolated for so long that species found there exist nowhere else. The rock is roughly 2 billion years old, some of the oldest exposed stone on Earth. Standing at the base of Angel Falls, mist soaking your clothes, the scale makes your brain reject what your eyes report. A waterfall taller than 2 Empire State Buildings stacked on top of each other, fed by a mountain older than most life on Earth. That waterfall was shaped over billions of years. The next entry was shaped in a single second by something that came from outer space. Roughly 50,000 years ago, an iron meteorite traveling at 26,000 miles per hour struck the Arizona desert and excavated a hole 0.74 miles wide and 570 feet deep. The Barringer crater is the best preserved impact crater on Earth. The meteorite itself was only about 160 feet across. The explosion it generated was equivalent to 10 megatons of TNT, roughly 700 times the energy of the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. The rim of the crater rises 148 feet above the surrounding desert. Standing at the edge, you look down into a bowl so large that it takes your eyes a moment to register the scale. The floor of the crater is flat and featureless. Small structures placed at the bottom for reference look like grains of rice. The wind across the rim is constant and dry. The Arizona sun makes the light-colored rock almost painful to look at without sunglasses. Daniel Barringer, a mining engineer, purchased the land in 1903, believing the meteorite was still buried beneath the crater and could be mined for its iron content. He spent 26 years and most of his fortune drilling into the crater floor. He never found it. The meteorite had vaporized almost entirely on impact. The energy that carved the hole also destroyed the object that created it. NASA used this crater to train Apollo astronauts in the 1960s. The lunar surface was expected to have similar impact features, and Barringer Crater was the closest analog available on Earth. Astronauts practiced geological sampling and navigation techniques on the crater floor, before walking on the moon. Today, visitors stand at the rim on a viewing platform and try to process a simple fact. A rock the size of a large building hit this spot at cosmic speed and left a scar that 50,000 years of Arizona weather has barely softened. Something that happened in 1 second, still visible 50,000 years later. The next place has its own timescale. And it involves 2 million animals moving at once. If you have visited Barringer Crater or any place on this list, tell us in the comments what it actually felt like standing there. First-person accounts from this audience are more valuable than anything we can research. Every year, approximately 1.5 million wildebeest, 200,000 zebras, and 300,000 gazelles cross the Serengeti in a circular migration covering roughly 1,200 miles. It is the largest overland animal migration on Earth. The Serengeti itself spans 5,700 square miles of grassland, savanna, and riverine forest in northern Tanzania, bordering Kenya's Masai Mara. The migration follows the rain. Herds move northwest from the southern calving grounds beginning in May and reach the Mara River crossings by July. The river crossings are the most documented and most lethal phase. Crocodiles up to 16 feet long wait in the murky water. The banks are steep and slick with mud. Animals pile onto each other in panic. Thousands drown every year. The carcasses feed an entire secondary ecosystem of vultures, hyenas, and fish. Lions, leopards, cheetahs, and hyenas follow the herds. A single lion pride in the Serengeti may take down over 100 kills per year during peak migration. Cheetahs sprint at 70 miles per hour across open grass. Leopards drag kills into acacia trees to eat above the competition. The predator density here is among the highest in Africa. The Maasai people have lived alongside this ecosystem for centuries. Their cattle herding traditions developed in direct relationship with the Serengeti's seasonal patterns. The boundary between the park and Maasai land is a negotiation between conservation and livelihood that remains unresolved and deeply personal for the communities involved. Standing on the plain at dawn, the sound of hooves carries for miles. Dust rises in columns. The horizon is alive with movement in every direction. The scale makes you feel like a single fixed point in a world that is entirely in motion. 2 million animals on the move across open grassland. And yet the next location makes the Serengeti look warm and hospitable because it is covered in a glacier large enough to hide active volcanoes. Vatnajökull covers 3,127 square miles of southeastern Iceland. That is roughly 8% of the country's total land area. The ice cap reaches a maximum thickness of 3,100 feet. Beneath it, several active volcanoes continue to generate heat, melt ice from below, and occasionally erupt through the glacier's surface in explosions of steam, ash, and catastrophic flooding. These subglacial eruptions produce a phenomenon called Jökullaup, a glacial outburst flood. When volcanic heat melts enough ice beneath the cap, the trapped water bursts out with almost no warning. The 1996 eruption under Vatnajökull released a flood carrying roughly 1.5 million cubic feet of water per second. The floodwater destroyed bridges, washed away roads, and reshaped the coastline. The entire event lasted hours. Ice caves form inside Vatnajökull, where meltwater rivers carve tunnels through the glacier. These caves are accessible only during winter, when freezing temperatures stabilize the ice. The walls glow blue from compressed ice that has squeezed out all air bubbles. The silence inside is total, except for occasional cracking sounds as the glacier shifts. Those sounds are the ice reminding you that the structure around you is not static. It moves. It breathes. It changes shape daily. Climate data shows Vatnajökull has lost roughly 10% of its volume since 1995. Outlet glaciers are retreating visibly year over year. The ice caves that exist today may not exist in a decade. Researchers measure the retreat in meters per year, and the numbers are accelerating. Walking into a glacier cave means walking into a structure that is simultaneously ancient and temporary. The ice above you fell as snow centuries ago. It may not survive another generation. A glacier hiding volcanoes beneath its surface is nature's version of a loaded weapon with the safety off. The next entry sits at the opposite end of the Americas, where ice is not hiding danger, it is calving off in building-sized chunks. The Perito Moreno Glacier in Patagonia stands 240 feet tall at its face and stretches 19 miles long. It is one of only 3 Patagonian glaciers that is not retreating. The glacier advances across Lake Argentino at a rate of roughly 6 feet per day. When the ice front meets the opposite shore, it creates a natural dam. Water pressure builds behind the dam until the ice ruptures in an explosion of frozen debris that can be heard miles away. These rupture events happen irregularly, sometimes every few years, sometimes after longer pauses. The most recent major rupture events have drawn thousands of spectators who wait on viewing platforms for the moment the wall breaks. The collapse sends massive waves across the lake. The sound is a deep, slow crack followed by a roar that vibrates in your chest. Chunks of ice the size of apartment buildings tumble into turquoise water and generate swells that rock boats anchored hundreds of yards away. Los Glaciares National Park was established in 1937 and covers 2,806 square miles of Andean wilderness. It was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1981. The park contains 47 glaciers in total. Patagonian winds here regularly exceed 60 miles per hour, strong enough to knock an adult off their feet on exposed ridgelines. Temperatures swing from mild summer days near 60 degrees Fahrenheit to winter conditions well below zero with wind chill. Hikers on the surrounding trails navigate crevasse fields, river crossings fed by glacial melt, and weather that changes faster than forecasts can track. A clear morning becomes a whiteout blizzard in under an hour. Rescue in the park's remote sectors requires helicopter access that weather frequently denies. Standing at the viewing platform, you feel the air temperature drop as the glacier breathes cold across the lake. Then you hear the crack. A glacier that advances 6 feet per day and periodically explodes is a reminder that ice is not passive. The next place was shaped by something even more violent, a volcanic eruption that blew the island apart. That glacier rupture is one of the most dramatic natural events you can witness with your own eyes. If you are still watching, you belong here. Subscribe so the next journey like this one lands directly in your feed. Roughly 3,600 years ago, a volcanic eruption on the island of Thera blew the center of the island into the sea. The explosion was one of the largest in recorded human history, estimated at 100 times the power of the 1980 Mount St. Helens eruption. What remained was a crescent-shaped ring of cliffs surrounding a water-filled caldera. That remnant is now called Santorini. The white buildings and blue domes that define the island's image sit on the inner rim of that caldera. The cliffs drop 1,000 feet straight down to the water. The villages of Ia and Fira line the edge like frosting on a broken bowl. Narrow stone paths wind between buildings, with no railing separating pedestrians from the drop. The sunset viewed from these paths turns the entire caldera gold and orange. Over 500,000 photographs of this sunset are posted online every year. Beneath the surface, the volcano is not finished. A small island called Neuschwanstein sits in the center of the caldera. It emerged from the water during eruptions in 1707 and continues to produce hot springs and sulfur vents. Geologists monitor seismic activity continuously. The last significant eruption was in 1950. The question is not whether it will erupt again. The question is, when? Approximately 2 million tourists visit Santorini annually. The island's infrastructure strains visibly during peak season. Fresh water is scarce and largely desalinated. Waste management struggles with the volume. The cruise ships that anchor in the caldera dwarf the fishing boats that once defined the harbor. Standing on the cliff edge at sunset, the beauty is so complete, it feels engineered. It was, by an explosion that ended a civilization. A paradise built on the rim of a volcanic crater. The next entry was built on a different kind of dream. One man's fairy tale carved into a mountain. King Ludwig II of Bavaria began construction of Neuschwanstein Castle in 1869 on a rugged hilltop in the Bavarian Alps. He intended it as a personal retreat, inspired by the operas of Richard Wagner and the myths of medieval German knights. The castle was never completed. Ludwig was declared insane in 1886 and died under mysterious circumstances the following day. He had lived in the castle for only 172 days. The exterior combines Romanesque arches, Gothic towers, and Byzantine-inspired interiors into a structure that looks more like a stage set than a functioning fortress. The throne hall was designed to resemble a Byzantine church, but the throne itself was never installed. The walls of the Singers' Hall are covered in murals, depicting scenes from Parsifal and Tannhäuser. Every surface tells a story that Ludwig believed was real enough to build in stone. The castle sits at 3,280 feet elevation on a narrow ridge. The Pulat Gorge drops steeply behind it, with a waterfall visible from the castle windows. The Marienbrücke, a narrow pedestrian bridge spanning the gorge at 295 feet above the water, provides the iconic view of the castle that appears on every postcard. The bridge sways in wind. There are no alternative viewpoints that match it. Approximately 1.4 million visitors tour the castle annually. On peak summer days, wait times exceed 3 hours. The interior tour lasts roughly 30 minutes and covers only 14 rooms. The rest remain unfinished, sealed behind walls that Ludwig never had the time or the sanity to complete.
Walt Disney used Neuschwanstein as the direct model for Sleeping Beauty Castle. A dream built by a king who was called mad now defines the visual identity of the most recognizable entertainment company on Earth. A castle built by obsession, never finished, now the most visited single building in Germany. The next entry was built 4,300 years earlier, and the people who built it made sure it would outlast everything. Before these final entries, consider this.
You have traveled from Chinese valleys to Icelandic glaciers to Bavarian mountaintops. If this journey has earned your attention, a like takes 1 second and tells the algorithm to show this to more people who want what you want. The Great Pyramid of Khufu stands 481 feet tall and contains an estimated 2.3 million limestone blocks, each weighing an average of 2.5 tons. It was built roughly 4,500 years ago. It held the record as the tallest human-made structure on Earth for over 3,800 years. No other construction record in history comes close to that duration. The precision of the base is staggering. The 4 sides are aligned to true north with an accuracy of 3/60ths of a degree. The base is level to within less than 1 inch across its entire 756-foot length. This was achieved without modern surveying equipment, without steel tools, and without wheeled vehicles. The exact construction method remains debated. No single theory fully accounts for every documented measurement. An estimated 20,000 to 30,000 workers built the pyramid over approximately 20 years. Archaeological evidence shows they were not slaves. They were organized laborers who lived in a nearby workers' village with bakeries, breweries, and medical facilities. Skeletal remains show healed fractures, meaning injured workers received care and survived. The project was a national effort, not a punishment. The interior contains 3 known chambers, connected by narrow ascending and descending passages. The Grand Gallery rises 153 feet at a steep angle through solid stone. The King's Chamber holds an empty granite sarcophagus. In 2017, a cosmic ray scanning project detected a large void above the Grand Gallery that had never been documented. Its purpose remains unknown. Standing at the base, you tilt your head back, and the structure disappears into the sky. The stones above you are older than most written languages. The desert wind carries sand that has been polishing these blocks since before the founding of Rome. Built 4,500 years ago with no steel, no engines, and no computers. Still standing. Still unexplained. Still the most recognizable structure on Earth. A monument older than most civilizations serves as a reminder that human ambition has always been extraordinary. The final entry takes us to a different kind of monument, one that nature built and time is slowly erasing. A dirt road in western Madagascar passes between 2 rows of baobab trees that stand over 80 feet tall, with trunks exceeding 35 feet in circumference. There are roughly 24 of them lining the road near Morondava. Some are estimated to be over 800 years old. A few may exceed 1,000. The species, Adansonia grandidieri, is classified as endangered. These specific trees are among the last survivors of a dense forest that once covered this entire region. The trunks store up to 32,000 gallons of water, an adaptation to Madagascar's long dry seasons. The wood is fibrous and spongy, useless for lumber, which is one reason the trees survived when the surrounding forest was cleared for farmland. Their shape, massive cylindrical trunks topped by thin branches that look like root systems, gives them the nickname upside-down trees. Local Malagasy legend says the gods planted them roots up as punishment for their vanity. The baobab flowers bloom at night. They are large, white, and pollinated by fruit bats that travel specifically to feed on them. Each flower lasts only 24 hours. By morning, the petals have dropped. The fruit the tree produces is a hard-shelled pod containing seeds coated in a tart powder that is rich in vitamin C and has been a food source for local communities for centuries. Deforestation and climate change threaten the remaining population. The trees that line this road are protected, but the surrounding landscape is increasingly agricultural. Without forest cover to regulate groundwater, the water table beneath the avenue is dropping. The trees are not being cut down. They are being slowly deprived of the conditions they need to survive. At sunset, the silhouettes of the baobabs stretch long shadows across the red dirt road. They look like they have been standing there since the beginning of time. They have not. And unless something changes, they will not be standing there at the end of it either. You have just traveled to 20 places that most people will never see in person. Stone valleys where monks sought immortality. Volcanoes with lava lakes that have glowed for a century. Caves large enough to grow their own weather. Glaciers hiding eruptions beneath their surface. Pyramids that have outlasted every empire that tried to claim them. And trees that survived everything except us. These places are not attractions. They are evidence of what this planet is capable of building and what it is capable of losing. The world documented in this video exists right now, today. But not all of it will exist tomorrow. If one of these places stayed with you longer than the others, that is worth paying attention to. Explore Danger will keep going to the places that demand to be seen before they cannot be. Subscribe so you are there when we do.